I will come whenever you invite me. That sounded weird. I'm sorry.
Welcome one, welcome all. It is Sunday, August 14th, and today we've got a friend with us here. Introduce yourself, Aaron.
My name is Aaron.
All right, let's get started. Okay, so to recap some of preseason, it's looking like we'll start with Malik Willis. Like he did in college, he's still having a tough time as far as using his arm and relying on his legs as far as his decision making. I don't know, looking like he still has some development to go through, and he's probably going to be held back for a year, maybe two, especially with A.J. Brown out of the room.
Is it like a hot take to kind of compare him to Justin Fields a little bit? Because I think they're pretty similar based on their playing style. Because they're mobile quarterbacks, I feel like they rely on their run game more than the passing.
Honestly, no. I see Justin Fields definitely as a better NFL-ready quarterback. He's just in a shit situation right now. He's got a bottom 3-0 line. They just changed head coaches. There's not much he can do with
what I'm saying is Justin Fields is a much more polished Malik Willis. I feel like they have similar games.
I see where you're coming from there, but I also would agree that Justin Fields has more of a higher pedigree coming from Ohio State, where I think I would agree more if Malik Willis stayed at Auburn versus transferring to Liberty. But Justin Fields has more of that higher caliber history when it comes to being able to read defenses, being able to throw. I don't know who Liberty faced, if anyone.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like more polished, because Justin Fields has been in Ohio State seeing defenses from players that are actually in the NFL right now. Mm-hmm. Malik Willis is jumping from, JUCO pretty much to now college, NFL players that, even at the worst, they would be starters against on any team that he faced for Liberty. So I feel like he has much more polishing to do. But I'm saying, let's say they all went to Ohio State. Mm-hmm. They have similar games that Justin Fields and Malik Willis, to me, are kind of similar in the way they play. But I agree with Brandon that Malik Willis has a year or two to learn how to read defenses, NFL defenses, and how, his decision-making. But I see they're kind of similar.
I think under Mike Vrabel, he's got a chance to get somewhere where, maybe he could be an above-average quarterback with his athletic ability, but it's going to come down to whether he can develop his poise, being able to sit in the pocket and use that strong arm of his rather than trying to roll out when he doesn't need to, like he did all through college. Another thumbs down from this preseason, Danny Dimes. I don't know. It's not looking like Brian Daboll's going to be able to do much with Daniel Jones. At first, Daniel Jones was top 5 in the league as far as deep accuracy. He had a really high deep passing completion percentage. They also addressed the offensive line heavily this offseason and in the draft. So hopes are looking up, especially in the run game with Saquon. Kenny Golladay is another question mark.
Kenny Golladay looks terrible.
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney in himself is a question mark.
Kadarius Toney looks good. He's
good, but
very
can he stay
athletic.
Healthy?
Yeah. That's another issue.
Because he missed, almost half the season last year, I think.
Yeah, he was in and out.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can easily finish 4th in the division, and if that's the case, they might be looking for a quarterback in next year's draft, which I heard is fairly deep.
It's very deep.
I heard it's a pretty good quarterback class this next year.
Yeah.
They might even move up.
Well, I would. I mean, if your choices was Danny Dimes or Tyrod Taylor or a draftee, I'd trade up. I mean, I think, though, the Giants are going to end up pretty high up to begin with.
I was going to say, who knows? They might end up with a top 5 pick next year.
Right.
Well, you have C.J. Stroud. You have Spencer Rattler coming out. You have a couple of those guys. What did Danny Dimes finish? 6 for 9 for 69 yards, I think it was?
Yep.
Yeah. Seems ironic number.
But
I also want to give Brian Daboll more time. Do you know what I mean? They've only had, week and a half? 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. It just seems more like it's...
He doesn't have faith in Danny Dimes, and you could tell it from the day he was hired. His original press conference, just to me, he does not seem like he's confident in Danny Dimes.
Well, how far they can get, I think, is capped, and I think Brian Daboll knows that and is basically going to try and coast with Daniel Jones rather than try to spend a lot of capital for, say, like a Jimmy G, which it's still possible they could grab him, but I can see them trying to coast with him, having a sub 500 record and maybe trying to move up in the first round next year.
Well, if they have below 500 record, aren't they going to be like a top 10 pick anyway? Mm-hmm. And I feel like
it's possible.
I guess, but
I think even if they play average offensive football, that defense for New York Giants is atrocious.
No, yeah.
Especially who's the draft pick?
Kayvon Thibodeau.
Thibodeau, yes.
Yeah.
He did not look good.
No, he hasn't looked good.
I feel like you guys are reading in a little too much. Like, it's week 1 of preseason.
Well, yeah.
This is the first time any of you guys have touched like an actual football field in like almost a year.
But we have something to go off of.
Right.
When it comes to Daniel Jones.
But like what like Aaron said, they've had like mandatory mini camps and now 2 weeks of actual training camp and then 1/2 of a quarter of a preseason game. Like I'm not saying that Daniel Jones is going to be a top 10 quarterback this year, but like I'm not really going to write him off based on that one game. Plus, that's still like a 66% completion percentage, which isn't bad by any means.
And the part that will change that offense will be his ability to use his leg because he is sneaky fast.
Yeah.
If they use him like they did Josh Allen in Buffalo, where it's design runs that only really are beneficial to the team, then I think that they will do better offensively.
And as long as he doesn't trip over his own legs.
So, question though is if let's say they do what you just said, right, and they actually look pretty good, right? Are they going to keep Danny Dimes, or do you think they'll draft somebody?
I think it'll be kind of a short leash. I think they draft someone because right now you don't know how far of an answer he is, but also that Danny Dimes has been given really a short straw since he was drafted. I mean, he was counted out already when he was drafted, and he didn't look awful his rookie season. And then really the revolving door of head coaches for the Giants has been quite a bit since Tom Coughlin. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many they've had, but they've had quite a few since he retired. So I think this will be the make it or break it year. If they can't pull him together this year, I think then they'll probably move on into the draft.
Yeah, because they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. So
no, I think this is the make it or break it year. Like if he does great, they'll extend him. If not,
this situation almost like I know we have more to go off of with Daniel Jones, but also definitely being in not as good a situation compared to this other guy. Who do you think has more pressure this year between Daniel Jones and Tua?
Daniel Jones.
Tua, because they just went out and got Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle's coming back from an amazing year. They've, even though they don't have a stud running back, they've got enough that they can kind of build together a pretty good run game. I think with the narrative going on with Tua that he can't throw deep, and when you go out and get a wide receiver like Tyreek Hill who's known for deep passes, that if they do not have a great year, I think they move on because they have a good enough offense, I believe, to go further if they struggle. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like they're better than the Patriots, even though I'm a big Patriots fan. I think, honestly, especially now that Zach Wilson's out, probably for a long time, they have a chance to go head-to-head with Buffalo for that, that wild card spot or winning the division.
I think it's Daniel Jones because Tua, this is his 3rd season in the league upcoming.
Yes.
And he's proven that he has the ability to win football games sometimes. He hasn't played like awful the last 2 seasons. They just haven't really had a good team, haven't had much talent around him aside from Jalen Waddle last year. Daniel Jones, this is his 4th year, and he's been awful all 4 years. Like he put up respectable stats his rookie year, but they haven't won more than like 5 games or 6 games since he's been the starter.
But he's had inconsistent coaching, a much worse defense, whereas Tua had Brian Flores, who's probably a top 5 defensive coach.
I still think that because Daniel Jones has had more chances, and this year they're going into like very similar situations. Yes, Tua is going to be on a much better team, so the expectations for him are higher, but I also think it's a lot easier for him to exceed what he did last year because of that. Whereas Daniel Jones, while it's not necessarily fair to hold him to a higher expectation because not much has changed aside from coaching, like his time is running out where this is his 4th try to make something happen, and if he doesn't, he's done.
Yep.
Tua is still in his rookie contract, and even if this year he doesn't do great, he still has another year to prove himself.
No, I think this is it for Tua, especially with the reports of them trying to get Tom Brady, and the whole tampering thing means that they're pretty eager to move on, especially with the nice draft class for quarterbacks coming up. It's how easy it is to draft another quarterback.
Actually,
I mean, you got C.J. Stroud.
They don't have a first-round pick next year.
Nope.
But they have another one though. They get to keep because they had 2 first-round picks, so they lost theirs, but they get to keep the other one.
Do you know whose it is?
I do not, but they actually have another first-round pick that they get to use because I was kind of confused at that.
I would disagree with that. I don't think they'll be wasting that 1 first-round pick, especially after losing 1, to get another quarterback who now has a brand new head coach and probably a brand new offensive system and has not started a full year yet.
So if Tua sucks, you're saying you wouldn't get C.J. Stroud or Spencer Rattler?
That's exactly
Not now.
That's
No,
what I'm
okay.
saying.
I think with Tua, I think the pressure's high for both, but I think it's worse for Daniel Jones because the Giants have already come out and said we don't trust you enough to give you your 5th-year option.
True.
Tua, he's had some injuries, he's had some inconsistencies. I think the biggest question mark is going to be the connection between Tyreek Hill and Tua, and the reason behind it is the difference between a right-handed quarterback and a left-handed quarterback and how they throw is vastly different when catching the ball because it spins different access. I mean, you're left-handed, and when we watch you throw versus me throw, like there's like differences there. Mm-hmm. Me being right-handed, you being left-handed, just how the ball spins off the fingers. But with Tyreek Hill, he's known for running down the field and catching it, blowing the top off. Now, I will be eager to see how they game plan with Tyreek because of Jalen Waddle. With having those 2 guys, it could tear any top off any defense. And then how do they use Mike Gesicki and
Wilson,
and is it Smith, the other tight end that they had? I think it's Drew Smith, Smythe.
Durham Smythe.
Durham Smythe.
Yeah.
And how they use those more in the middle of the field, like on crossing routes and kind of getting open. But I think overall, Danny Dimes has it worse.
Something interesting that I saw, too, was while Jalen Waddle broke the rookie reception record, he only averaged just over 10 yards per catch. Mm-hmm. And that includes yards after the catch. So while he seems to be more, even though he, along with Tyreek, they're going to be the fastest wide receiver duo in the league, it's looking more like he's kind of like a safe possession type guy, whereas Tyreek is the one that's going to be able to take balls to the house on slants or stop on a dime for curls, run it off for another 5 yards, or like you said, just being able to take the top off the defense entirely. All right, now we'll talk a couple positives with these preseason games that have gone over the last couple days. Jalen Hurts looks really good. With the addition of A.J. Brown and looking like they're probably going to be committing more to the passing game because obviously while they led the league in rushing last year, it didn't get them very far. Hopefully Jalen Hurts working on his accuracy and those weaknesses that we've seen over the last year or two. I don't know. I think the Eagles can take the division over the Cowboys again this year.
So I'm very actually optimistic about the offense. And the players have nothing to do with it. And what I mean by that is, did you see the highlight from the preseason game yesterday where Jalen Hurts were running out of bounds and he was about 3 yards out of bounds and a Jets player just clocked him?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And did you see the reaction from Sirianni?
Sirianni?
To Saleh.
I did not.
He was jumping up and down, swearing, saying a couple F-bombs, like, how could you do this? This is like a preseason.
Yeah.
And the reaction from not just him, but his coaching staff and the players on the sideline, was amazing. They got in a fight in a preseason game because they late-hitted the quarterback. For you to do that in the preseason and willing to give up potentially you getting an injury as a player during preseason to protect your quarterback, that means they already have good team chemistry and that the head coach is the right fit for that team. And I feel like the Eagles have been plagued by bad coaching, which is part of the reason why they've sucked so much. And so now that they got A.J. Brown, like you were saying, and Jalen Hurts seems like he's made an improvement and that they're going to focus on the passing game, they're going to be a sneaky, dangerous team.
I have the Eagles projected at a 10-7 record next year, and they have by far the easiest schedule in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
They play the Lions, the Commanders twice, Jaguars, Steelers. Sorry, Aaron.
That's okay.
Texans, Giants twice, and the Bears, and then the Saints. I have them with a 10-7 record, and that's with like pretty much no upsets, losing to the Vikings, Cardinals, Cowboys twice, Colts, Packers, Titans. And then, Cowboys again.
What I love about Jalen Hurts is he has the leadership, the confidence, and the intangibles that people have talked about and have seen in Dak. But I think athletically, he's got
better.
a much higher ceiling than Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Which is why I think later on in the season, I think he'll be able to take the Eagles further than Dak has been able to take his team.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Even after leading the league in passing, and now his offense is on the decline. We're going to see if CeeDee Lamb is going to live up to his expectations and his potential as a 1. But in my opinion, and I don't even think it's a hot take to say this, he hasn't really even lived up to being the 2 with the 2 years that he has under his belt now.
Well, because Cedric Wilson was so good last year for the Cowboys. He looked like the number 2 in my opinion.
No, but over those 2 years, like I mentioned before, of the receivers in the last 2 years that had 175 targets or more, he led the league in drops in that category.
I know. I'm
While
agreeing
at the
with you.
same time, he has the second highest. He had the second highest juke rate. So like in open space,
Right.
It's looking like that's probably where they're going to try to scheme him in. He's not a red zone threat. He's not going to have a lot of touchdowns, but I see him being similar to like what a Jalen Waddle was last year, where you'll see him averaging probably between 10 and 12 yards per catch, with probably 75 plus receptions on the year.
Yep.
Another, I thought, thumbs up was Trey Lance in the
Yes.
preseason. 4 for 5, 92 yards and a touchdown. I think that he, now with a year under his belt to kind of prepare himself, I think that was the right move by the 49ers to give him the reins. I think they're going to scale down their offense quite a bit because he's still learning.
Yep.
But I think he brings that other kind of aspect that Jimmy G really didn't bring, and that's the mobility of the position. I wish they could nail down one running back. I mean, JaMychal Hasty didn't look bad. I think he averaged a little over 7 yards a carry in the few that he had. But they need to find someone that they can pair in the backfield with him. And then you have pretty dang good wideouts with Debo and Ayuk and who's the third one?
I don't know, but they have like a young guy that you saw, Gray.
Danny Gray.
Danny Gray,
Yeah.
who looked really good.
Yeah.
During the
Someone's
preseason game.
already picked him up in our dynasty league.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, Ray McLeod from Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Four catches, 4 targets, 63 yards, and a touchdown.
Yep.
So they have kind of like a sneaky wide receiver core, you know. Besides Debo, I mean, I feel like everybody else is kind of underrated. So it's not like, you know, a Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins kind of wide receiving core that's, you know, has a lot of hype like the Bengals. But I feel like they have enough talent there that if used correctly, it's going to be pretty dangerous.
If there's anybody that can take Trey Lance to his fullest potential, I truly believe it's Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. Especially now that he's upset about he can't wear his hats.
He's big. He's athletic. He's got an arm. They traded a lot of draft capital to get him 3rd overall last year. But he was only 20 years old, also coming out of North Dakota State. So I think Kyle Shanahan knew and understood that he already had a 29-year-old quarterback that could get them to the NFC Championship and a Super Bowl. Even though they weren't winning it, he was a great game manager, and Jimmy G is great in the locker room. So for Trey Lance as a 20-year-old being able to come in to learn under him, having a year to learn the system, and now they're going to fully commit to him rather than having that question of, oh, who do we start? Who's better right now?
Who does the team look towards?
The fans
to
want
leadership?
the young hype and this and that. No, we're going to go with Jimmy G for this year.
Yeah.
He's going to learn. And then by next year, he'll be 21. He'll have a year of being on the team. We're going to let Jimmy G go, and then we will fully commit to him.
Jimmy G has to be traded, in my opinion. I mean,
He's already been given the green light to request one.
well, yeah, but I'm saying because what I was saying earlier about who now the team knows that Trey Lance is the guy to look towards for that leadership.
Yep.
It's bad to have like the old administration, in my opinion, still there.
Cool. All right. Well, that's a recap of all, some of the highlights of preseason week one so far.
One more.
What?
Taekwondo throwing.
Shut the fuck
I'm not
up about
talking
Wide
about
receiver
Taekwondo.
1, Patriots. Next, Justin Jefferson.
I apologize to all the people that are watching this on YouTube that have been staring at a blank mock draft board for the past 30 minutes while we talk about news.
You make me not want to be a Pats fan, Nick.
Wow.
I'm not a Pats fan.
All right, so we are going to do
Lucky you.
we're going to do a 12-team PPR mock draft. We did one about a month ago. This will probably be the last one right before draft season actually kicks off. Just like last time, I'm going to have Siri randomize all of our draft positions, and then we are going to go ahead and get started. So I guess I'll start with Aaron because he's our guest. Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 12.
A random number between 1 and 12 is 7.
So Aaron will be picking at number 7.
Go ahead and take 7, Aaron.
I'll go for Brandon next. Hey
Okay.
Siri, pick a number between 1 and 12. Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 12. Oh, it's doing it on my computer.
Technical
Sorry.
difficulties.
Brandon's is number 10.
Oh, okay.
And then the next one was Nick with number 8. And then I guess I'll ask her one more time and see which one it comes up on. Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 12. And that one's 5.
So
Wow.
8.
No, none of us have the turnaround. I think that's going to make it interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think we've had one. We are all kind of sitting toward the middle.
7's rough.
It is kind of right in the middle of the draft this year. I'm not a fan of.
7 is rough. It's all right.
You logged in?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Oh, let me claim it.
So
here.
one
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
quarterback,
Nick, you got to
that
claim
spot.
your spot
There you
too.
go.
There we
one
go.
quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receiver, tight end.
Yep.
And
this
8
is a
flex.
full PPR, so we're going 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, tight end, flex, and 4 bench spots.
Interesting.
All right, Brandon, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Let's kick it off. All right. JT, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, and CMC
you're joking.
are the
kidding
first
me?
4 off
Dear
the board.
God.
Jason's up at 5.
I was really hoping McCaffrey was going to fall. That's some stupid shit that Sleeper would pull.
Literally, the first 4 running backs just off the board.
Exactly. Yep. The top 4 running backs, first 4 off the board. I like that.
Normally, I would take a running back in the first round, but I feel like 4, 5, and 6 are usually where you see like Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp go. So I'm like kind of forced to take one of them here because I'm not going to reach for Dalvin Cook.
In a 1-year league, there is absolutely nobody who has the upside that Cooper Kupp does. And in a full PPR, in my opinion, without a doubt, he should be a top 5 pick.
I agree with you in most cases, but I also really, really like Justin Jefferson. Actually, okay, so my wide receiver rankings say Kupp is a better pick, so I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp. You're right.
Jefferson's
I won't
off the
think
board
about it.
next, and Aaron's up.
So this is where it comes down to.
There's really 2 different ways you could go here.
There is, and I'm a big proponent of running backs first round because they have that ability to go. And there are 3 names that I see. Najee Harris being one that's the do-it-all out of the backfield for Pittsburgh. Dalvin Cook, but he's struggled quite a bit with injuries.
He's always you have to accept that he's not going to play all 17.
You
correct.
say he struggled with injuries. We've talked about this a couple times on the show. He struggles with injuries, but it's usually like 2 games a season that he misses.
Right.
Like historically. So like you can live with
yes, I can live with the -2 games that he misses, but it's the nagging stuff that doesn't allow him to run to his full potential, like we've seen before. And then one guy that I think will have a bounce back year because he also dealt with some injuries was DeAndre Swift. I think that he could be the guy that bounces back and be that guy that they need that can run the ball but also catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. But for this, the same way I did last year in our draft, I have to take Mr. Najee Harris. I think he's too much for the Pittsburgh offense for touches to not take in this PPR league.
Even with announcing that he's going to have a lighter workload this year, I don't think that's saying much when he was one of only 2 running backs that had over 300 rush attempts.
Yeah, he had
had 92 targets.
He
on the
had
year.
400 plus touches last year.
Yeah.
Yes,
And they wanted to decrease it by 10 to 15%. That takes him down to 360.
yeah,
Yeah.
which
And that's
means
still,
he still
a
has the
lot.
volume of a top 5
Yeah.
running back.
But not even just that, but like his mentality coming into this season, he's like I'm not going to wear a visor this year because I want to look motherfuckers in the eyes.
I saw that. I saw
it's
that.
just the mentality that he has going into the season. I know the big question mark with the Steelers line, but I think in this portion, I think Najee is the right person to take.
Yeah, especially if I were a Pittsburgh fan, I would be so happy to have Najee Harris on my team.
You know who I'm so happy to have on my team? Jamar Chase, and I'm drafting him.
All right, after that is Dalvin Cook. Now I'm up on the board. In my opinion, the 3 top tier wide receivers that I would take in the first round have gone. Devontae Adams is a bit of a question mark. There's going to be a lot of places to move the ball around in Vegas. I don't know if I trust taking him in the first, and while I consider Diggs to also be elite, I think his upside is capped a little bit, while he's probably one of the more consistent wide receivers for the number 1 fantasy quarterback. But in a full PPR with the upside of having over 100 targets this year, I'm actually going to go ahead and take DeAndre Swift.
That's the right pick.
I agree.
All right, Joe Mixon, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, and Travis Kelce are now gone.
Stephon Diggs falling to you is stupid.
I am up again, and the last of the receivers who I believe could place as the number 1 wide receiver this coming year is left in Stephon Diggs, so I'm going to go ahead and take him as my second pick. Josh Allen goes off the board, and now Nick is back for his second pick to pair with Jamar Chase. Yes, I mean I could have gone running back with my last pick, but
Diggs
I mean
is the right pick.
yeah,
Diggs is
I
the
think
right
Diggs
pick.
is the right pick. Aaron Jones and Kamara, you could argue, you could pair with Swift as an RB2 with the upside of also having a lot of targets this year. I just like the safety with Diggs.
So I'm going to go running back here because I kind of need a running back. And there's 2 that I'm going to choose from. I don't want Chubb. No way. It's either Barkley, because he seems to be the focal point of the Giants' offense, or Javonte Williams. To me, I feel like the Giants are going to rely on the run game more in Barkley than Javonte Williams because they have Russell Wilson, who's known to be a great thrower and a runner himself, and they have why am I forgetting his name? You know what I'm talking? Melvin Gordon, who's they want to get involved in the offense as well. So I feel like the true running back one that's left potentially.
I think Saquon's got a lot of upside, but I'd have to disagree with you there. I think Kamara would have been the best pick there.
But he's going to go to jail.
He's not going to get suspended.
He's not getting suspended this year. It might get pushed to 2023, and on top of that, there's absolutely nobody behind Alvin Kamara, even with the offense not being as good. If anything, they're going to rely more on him as being in my opinion, the best player on that offense to carry them through the season.
You're forgetting about Mark Ingram, the greatest Saints running back of all time. All right, that puts Aaron back up on the clock with Nick Chubb, CeeDee Lamb, Mark Andrews, players like that still available.
Nick Chubb, another person I didn't realize he missed 4 games last year.
It was with COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, so
A lot
COVID
of
makes
it.
a
He
little
had,
bit
I think he
different.
had one injury, and that's when Dearness Johnson came in and went off. But he was in COVID protocols, in and out.
Right. But I think the player that I take here that has caused some controversy, especially in the offseason here, but offers such different versatility when it comes to San Francisco, and that's Deebo Samuel. I think with this pick makes the most sense because he is a threat running the ball, catching the ball. He's going to touch the ball, and when he does, he usually makes big plays.
And they just committed to him, so there's no worry with Deebo. I agree with that.
I guess I can talk about my strategy here. Oh, I like this, that I can every wraparound I get to talk about what I actually want to do because you guys can't snipe me. So I want 2 running backs with these next 2 picks. I don't want one of them to be Ezekiel Elliott, so it's very slim that I get the guys that I want. But with all of these 4 teams ahead of me having already taken a running back, there's a chance that some of them might fall. I wouldn't mind having Chubb if I can get another top running back, but if I can't and he's my only one, I'm not happy about that. Aaron Jones, I think, is going to be really, really, really involved this year, and they don't really have much else aside from him and A.J. Dillon going for them on offense.
With him being 27 this coming year, though, I like the volume that he's going to have in the passing
that's what
game.
I mean.
But A.J. Dillon is what worries me as far as splitting the backfield because he looks really good.
Aaron Jones is the bigger guy who's going to get the goal line touches, and he's also a very great receiving threat in an offense that Aaron Rodgers has hardly anybody to throw to. But I think Kamara just has the RB1 upside that I want.
I agree with
RB1.
that, and that's why I think if Alvin Kamara falls to me in the back half of the second round, I'll take him all day.
I still ended up getting Leonard Fournette, which is... Oh, just kidding. He went. My bad. Okay, so then after me, Nick Chubb does go. CeeDee Lamb falls to the 210, which is probably the latest I've ever seen him go in a sleeper mock draft. Then Leonard Fournette goes, followed by Kyle Pitts, and then Aaron Jones, Keenan Allen, and then Ezekiel Elliott and Javonte Williams. So I'm not going to get that top-tier running back that I wanted, but I'm perfectly okay with taking a wide receiver here and just rounding out my 2 starting wide receivers with 2 top 10 guys. So I'm going to go ahead and draft Mike Evans here.
Not bad. I think James Conner is one that we've not talked about enough, who could be very underrated this year with the red zone work that he got last year. He easily has the potential to be a top 10 running back again this year.
See, I think he's going to be overrated this year.
He very well could be because it's also the best fantasy year that he has ever had. But
he would be
the one running back that was paired with him that could have taken from his potential was Chase Edmonds, and he's now gone.
If he's the next running back taken off the board, which I think he will be, he'll be the RB16, and I'd probably put him around that range, but I would rather have a top 10 receiver to go along the wide receiver 1 than
I'm
16th ranked running back.
I'm just saying with the potential to have 8+ touchdowns again this year with him falling to the 3rd round is not bad. I am not saying I would take him as a top 10 or 12 running back.
Right.
I would take him later because he has that upside.
Nope, I get that. But a guy here that I think is going to bounce back this year and be used in multiple different ways that gives you that versatility, because right now my theme is versatility between Najee and Deebo. Travis Etienne. I think he's going to be that guy that
I was
bounces
hoping he was going
back.
to fall next round.
Me too.
I think he's going to be that guy that bounces back after his injury this year. I know he didn't average. I think he averaged 2.6 in the first preseason game, but he had a 12-yard explosive run and then a 10-yard catch. And you mix that with James Robinson in Jacksonville, and Trevor Lawrence takes that next step in his second year. I think Etienne's going to put up.
I really
points.
don't think there was an issue with Doug Peterson in Philly at all. He got the Eagles their very first Super Bowl win. I don't think I think Doug Peterson in Jacksonville could make a lot of changes and can hopefully bring Trevor Lawrence to where he needs to be.
So I've kind of bashed on this guy quite a bit. But now that his head coach has come out, said that he is impressed with the receiving ability and has a high confidence level in him as a running back 1, and with a suspension of a certain wide receiver for 6 games, I'm going to go James Conner.
Cool.
Not an amazing.
Okay, James
an
Conner
amazing pick,
goes.
but the right pick.
It is the right. No, I'm not excited, but
When he falls almost a full round,
Higgins
you
went.
got to grab him.
James Conner goes, and then T. Higgins right after. He was the one I was looking at. with him being like a boomer bust guy, like if he can go off any game and have 30, 35 plus points, I would have loved to have him as my wide receiver too. But now I've got a couple running backs to choose from. I've got Cam Akers and David Montgomery. He's probably one of the only good players on the Bears offense this year, but with him still being on a team with a terrible offensive line and a questionable new head coach, I don't know if I want to commit to that as my RB2. Cam Akers has been battling injuries, and with Matt Stafford, I don't see them regressing in the passing game, especially with the addition of Allen Robinson. So looking at wide receivers, there's Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman. In my rankings, I had Michael Pittman as a top 12 potential wide receiver. I think the Colts are going to look much better with Matt Ryan this year. Matt Ryan knows what it is and what it looks like to have a top 12 wide receiver. There's nobody behind Michael Pittman. He's a huge target. I'm going to go ahead and take Michael Pittman. I think he's going to have well over 100 targets this year. So Mahomes, Cam Akers, Justin Herbert, and Terry McLaurin go. And
I think Cam Akers would have been the right pick last time because Michael Pittman probably would have fallen to you on the turn. That's just me, though.
Justin Herbert was what I was hoping to grab at the 4th. Shoot.
True. So now it comes back to me, and David Montgomery is kind of that last running back in that tier that I would be willing to take a running back to. But I've also got the upside of a Jalen Waddle, who I could take, and I could also get that positional advantage with George Kittle at my tight end. In my opinion, I would rather take depth and stack on the running back and wide receiver position and stream, or take a tight end with a lot of upside later on. So looking at running backs, I've got, again, David Montgomery and Breece Hall are probably the ones I'm looking at. And then at wide receiver, I've got Jalen Waddle. This is a tough decision to me. I think Jalen Waddle's upside is capped, where I think he's obviously still going to be relevant and he's very good. There's just kind of a question mark there with Tyreek Hill, and with there being a drop at the running back position after David Montgomery, I'm probably going to go ahead and take him as my RB2.
I was hoping George Kittle was going to fall to me.
So I need a wide receiver too, and this guy, first 5 weeks, he had 15.4 points, 21.9, so pretty much 22, 20.5, and then 31.9. Which tells me when he has a competent quarterback or even okay quarterback, he is the go-to guy, and he is a great wide receiver too. And I have faith that Baker Mayfield will win out this job, and I feel like they're going to let him throw more, especially with CMC being healthy. To kind of like, what was it last year? During the first 5 games.
Yep.
And if history repeats itself, which I believe it does, I feel like I just got a great pick for the wide receiver too. So I picked DJ Moore.
I like that pick.
Aaron's up.
I like that pick. I need also a wide out too, especially because the quarterback I wanted is now off the board. And I think this guy right here that we talked about quite a bit leading up to this, I think he's going to be even better this year with the addition to Tyreek Hill, and that's Jalen Waddle.
Nice.
I think he is going to get more targets, but I think he's also going to be used almost kind of like a Mecole Hardman was to complement Tyreek Hill, but I think Jalen Waddle is much better than Mecole Hardman is, and I think he's going to benefit from it.
Breece Hall follows. I was hoping that he was going to fall to me, but after thinking about it a little bit more, I don't think it would have been smart to take him there. I think what I do now is draft either my 3rd wide receiver or Darren Waller, and then grab J.K. Dobbins on the turn, because the chances that he falls are pretty high considering the amount of running backs that are already on teams 1 through 4. And I have Deontay Johnson, I think, finishing as like the wide receiver 10, 11, or 12 next year. I can't remember exactly where I had him in my rankings. So I'm going to go ahead and grab him to put in my flex spot, and then hopefully watch J.K. Dobbins fall to me on the turn. And he does. So following my Deontay Johnson pick, Darren Waller goes, then Jerry Jeudy, followed by DK Metcalf and Elijah Mitchell, then Cortland Sutton and Dalton Schultz, and then Antonio Gibson, and then Joe Burrow becomes the fourth quarterback taken off the board. So J.K. Dobbins is available to me at this pick. I'm going to go ahead and grab him because reports are saying that he is looking like he's going to be ready for week 1. The most recent report was 2 days ago, and it says he's still looking to overcome hurdles before he can be cleared. But again, there's still 3 weeks before the season starts, and he looks much better in terms of his injury recovery than Gus Edwards does. And I think any running back that has the potential to be the only one that's getting valuable touches in the Ravens offense, even though Lamar Jackson's going to be there stealing the some of the goal line touches, that offense is going to be good enough that I feel like J.K. Dobbins is going to score touchdowns. He's going to get some good receiving work. So I'm okay with having him as my RB2.
This guy, I think, is in a make-or-break year, especially given the news that they weren't picking up his fifth-year option. And with that being Josh Jacobs, I think the addition to Devontae Adams is going to make a difference for him because it's going to open up the box more. Because I think now that Derek Carr has those weapons to be able to hit through the air, I mean, the Henry Ruggs incident in itself, they lost a deep threat. But with Devontae Adams, Devontae Adams is still arguably one of the best receivers in the league, regardless of where he is. And I think Josh Jacobs is going to benefit from that. Plus, he's playing for money this year.
By spreading out the offense, too, if you've got a power back like Josh Jacobs against a defense with a very light box in front of you, I can definitely see him giving one truck and then just taking it for a good 10, 15 yards.
Yep.
So I was thinking about maybe getting a quarterback here, a tight end, or my flex. And I decided I'm going to go with, or running back, whatever. I think I'm going to go with my flex. Actually, my flex. And so I'm going to go with this guy that is now going to be the wide receiver 1 for the first 6 games. Actually, never mind, because I just remembered I have the running back. Damn. I'm going to kind of reach for this quarterback who showed last night's preseason game that the focus is more on the passing, and he can make those passes, especially since they traded for A.J. Brown, who I think is going to be healthy this year and could potentially help him become a top 5 quarterback. So I'm going to get Jalen Hurts.
I was hoping that you were going to wait to hit the draft button so I could give you some advice here. How many of the 3 or 4 teams in between you already have a quarterback? 3 of them. So if you take literally any other player, the chances that Jalen Hurts falls to you at the next pick are very, very, very high because Brandon values Kyler Murray more than Jalen Hurts. So even if Brandon takes a quarterback in these next 2 picks, unless somebody takes a second quarterback in the first 6 rounds, which isn't likely, you could have got Jalen Hurts at the next pick and taken somebody there.
I know I've said this before, but I'm not going to kill myself because I drafted a player that I liked, around earlier than people think. I don't care. I find somebody I like, I'm going to draft him. My goal is to make the best football team that could win a championship, not the best value.
Okay, but
I'm not going to get extra points for, drafting a steal in the 17th round. They're not going to give me 15 extra fantasy points. So, I could care less, honestly. I know you guys have given me crap about it, but in the past, but, especially a top 5 quarterback, I'm not going to mess around because who knows? Maybe someone drafts him.
Great, then they're ruining their fantasy team. But Mike Williams is going to score, physically score more points than Allen Robinson or Chris Godwin, who's probably going to be there next time. So you are actually getting bonus points by waiting on that quarterback and taking the better flex option.
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to go home and cry about it because I drafted a quarterback 1 round too early. Jeez, I'm probably a bad fantasy football owner.
Okay, so here with the one guy in front of him being suspended for 6 games, I think Marquise Brown has a lot of upside. While his volume might go down afterwards, with him building the rapport and the chemistry with Kyler Murray, or with it becoming more of what they already have because they played together in college, I think Marquise Brown has a lot of upside at my flex spot.
I know where you're going with this pick, too.
At this pick
he did
here,
the smart thing and waited on quarterback like he should have.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Because I'm hoping my idea paid off, and I'll hit it on it once I get there.
All right. So I was thinking of taking some depth at the running back position, but in the early 6th round in I think it's too. Yeah, I can't pass up a potential top 5 fantasy quarterback in the late 6th round. So I'm just going to go ahead and pair Marquise Brown with Kyler Murray.
I knew you.
Just out of curiosity, would you have taken Jalen Hurts over Kyler Murray?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Hold on. Kyler Murray has reportedly have had, his wrist that has been hurt, soreness. So so that's a factor that I had to deal with. But whatever.
I don't hate your pick.
No, I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, and I think he's a good pick. But what I'm saying is whatever player you take here, Mike Williams, Marquise Brown, Allen Robinson, is better than that
One
player.
thing I will say
had
is
both.
I was hoping Mike Williams would have fallen to me because as the wide receiver 12 last year, and he just got a 3-year extension, and literally nothing has changed on the Chargers offense. I would have absolutely loved to have him at my flex spot, but I got sniped by the AI team right before me, and that's who I think Nick should have taken instead of Jalen Hurts.
So I'm going to go young here. This running back is projected to share the snaps 50-50. He's only 24 years old. If I remember right, last year he was 21st running back ranking, but he's projected for about 13 points a game. So I'm going to pick A.J. Dillon because I feel like he could overtake. Why am I forgetting his name? Who's the
Aaron
other running back?
Jones.
Yes,
Aaron Jones.
especially with Jones being a little bit
So
older.
I-
They seem like they're making like a hard reset for the Green Bay Packers.
I have to disagree with you there because the only running back left that is the clear starter for their team is Miles Sanders, and the only reason why he was ranked so low last year is because he had no touchdowns, but he averaged over 5 yards a carry, which is wildly efficient. And with A.J. Brown spreading the field out, I think Miles Sanders was like a look for my next pick. I don't think he'll fall to me. I took Kyler Murray's upside instead, but I think Miles Sanders should have definitely been the next running back taken.
I agree with you with Miles Sanders being a higher.
I actually don't like Miles Sanders though. I've been burnt by him too much in the past, and maybe it's a little bit biased. But I feel like
It's very biased.
he has not shown to me that he's worth the draft pick, in my opinion. Because let's look at him.
I'm glad you think that because when he falls to me in 3 picks, I will gladly smash the button on that.
I would like to be able to hit draft. So, ironically enough, I'm taking Miles Sanders.
I'm okay with that too because if you're going to take your 4th running back,
So the reasoning
then
behind it is I was debating on either taking a quarterback or a running back, and I think Miles Sanders gives me that 3rd running back that I need that will pair up because he is a threat catching the ball out of the backfield, and this being a PPR league, you want those running backs that can do it all. I understand he's had some injuries in the past, but I also think this year the offensive line is going to be more sound than it has been the last few years, and I think he's only going to benefit from it.
my only concern is that Miles Sanders will then be sitting on your bench while the rest of you, like, you can't start him because we have 2 running back spots in a flex. So I probably would have leaned toward wide receiver there. Or I guess either way it doesn't matter because that player's going to come off your bench.
As soon as the draft is done, I'm going to offer him for Miles Sanders. So that's
okay,
why
so
he did
this
that.
puts me in a little bit of a weird spot
This
because
is
I
a mock
don't
draft.
really like Clyde as much as I thought, or as much as I have the last couple of weeks, because it's looking like it's going to be a little bit more of like a committee than I originally thought. So I don't love taking Clyde here. I really, really like Michael Thomas, but I think Darnell Mooney is going to get way, way, way more volume, and I like having a lot of wide receivers that are going to get the volume and have really high weekly ceilings. So while I would love to attack a position of need at quarterback or tight end, I don't really see a good value here, and I don't want to reach at a position where I can get value later on. So I'm going to go ahead and take Darnell Mooney and then hope that a better value falls to me at a different position in the next round.
That's hilarious that you just shit on Aaron for taking a 4th
Yeah,
running
I
back
know,
and you
but
take a 4th receiver.
I just, like, there's nothing else there that would have.
Which
like,
I get. I mean, I would rather. The nice thing about having 4 running backs, though, is that I have the flexibility to pick and choose based off matchups.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'd rather go 4 running backs than 4 receivers any day for that reason.
Yep.
All right. So here I'm in another tough spot where there's no value. I would have liked to get like Tom Brady here or Russell Wilson, but they both went. I don't want to draft Dallas Goedert because I don't like Dallas Goedert. The 6th, 7th, and 8th rounds are always really tough. So, I would love to have had better running backs early so I can take advantage of the wide receiver value here. But I'm kind of forcing myself into a bad spot to reach for a player where I already have 4 receivers. I think of all the running backs that are left right now, my favorite one is Kareem Hunt. So I guess I have to take him here. But, again, that's a pretty bad reach.
Pay that man.
Considering the rest of the players that are available. But yeah, if they end up trading him to a team that doesn't have a running back as good as Nick Chubb, then sure, that pays off, and then all of a sudden he's an RB2.
Right. No, I agree. I think for me here, because I can go 2 different ways. I still don't have a quarterback, but everyone else has a quarterback, so now I can kind of take my time, especially given the quarterbacks that are still left. I think for me, I go wide receiver here. I think it's the smart choice, and I think for me, this guy, he's a rookie, but he's shown so much, and that's Drake London.
Nick, would you have drafted him if he was there right now?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
because of his knee injury. He suffered a knee injury last night. So it's not looking good. So I wouldn't.
Likely
draft him.
not serious.
But, so I'm going to kind of read.
He got hit in a contact sport game, and I don't like that, so I don't like him anymore.
All right, Nick, who are you looking at?
So I need a running back, and I'm thinking, what team likes to run the ball the most? And is there a clear running back one for that team? And the answer is Seattle. So I was thinking of either drafting Walker, who's the young guy, or Rashad Penny, who is, 26 and is suffering with a groin injury. But Pete Carroll has came out and said that Rashad Penny is the number 1 running back. And I don't believe in Drew Lock's passing game enough for him to think that Pete Carroll is going to all of a sudden go away from the run-first offense and start passing the ball. So I'm going with Rashad Penny.
All right, Kenneth Walker's off the board next. I'm looking at taking my 3rd running back, but I believe the guy that I want is going to fall to my next pick. I would absolutely love to take Gabriel Davis here, but I don't think I want to cap my upside while I already have Stephon Diggs, but I do have Gabriel Davis very high in my rankings. I know a lot of people are fairly low on him. He's a big question mark, but you can't argue he right now is the number 1 wide receiver for easily a top 3 quarterback in this league, for one of the best play callers in this league, Andy Reid. I'm going to go ahead and take Juju. Cordell Patterson, James Cook, Garrett Wilson, and Gabe Davis all go off the board.
Gabe Davis falling to the 8th round is criminal.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a bust, or not a bust, excuse me. I think he's going to be a breakout this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I completely agree with them already announcing that he's going to be the 2 opposite to Diggs. And he's way better than Sanders.
I think Garrett Wilson making it this low, I think, is quite a bit too.
I think that's because of Elijah Moore.
Gabe Davis was just the wide receiver 36 drafted.
Mm-hmm. That's insane. If I would have thought about taking him. So what I would have loved to do is take Mike Williams where I took Kyler Murray 2 rounds ago, and then wait for Trey Lance to fall to me 2, 3, or 4 rounds later. But because I had to, take the fall of Kyler Murray, now I've got Juju as my 4th, and at running back, the person who I wanted fell to me. I'm taking Chase Edmonds.
Nice.
I think he's going to be the starting running back for the Dolphins. They vastly improved their offensive line. Mike McDaniel is kin of Kyle Shanahan, who is the best run schemer in the league, so I'm pretty confident in him.
Just got shafted.
That's fine. I'm going young.
He wanted the stack.
So this is what I'm doing. So this guy is only 22, but he is projected from his camp to be the wide receiver 1, and he is separating himself from Garrett Wilson.
Oh, you mean the guy I just talked about?
That's a good pick, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going Elijah Moore. Even though Zach Wilson is injured, I think Joe Flacco is good enough passing quarterback that it's not going to be that much of a hit.
He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
He is. He is.
Joe Flacco?
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, did you see his preseason game? He looked pretty good last night.
He's a bum.
I know he is, but still.
So for my pick here, I'm finally taking a quarterback, and I'm going to stack it by taking Deebo Samuel's battery mate, Trey Lance. I know that there's Prescott, Rodgers, and Stafford still kind of up there, but I think Trey Lance offers more of an upside with his legs than the other three, with Prescott, Rodgers both losing their top wideouts this past offseason. So Rodgers still has, what's his name? Lazard.
Alan Lazard.
And Prescott has Cedric Wilson, but I'm not sold on Cedric Wilson.
I think that's a good pick. I was going to pass on him here and then let Team 3 take Dak Prescott and take him at the 9-5. So you reaching around, while it is, I think, a reach, it's a necessary one because he wouldn't have been there at your next pick. So now I am looking at Dallas Goedert still sitting here. Again, I don't like him, but to get him at a full round of value is kind of screaming that I should definitely hit the draft button. But I also like Zach Ertz and Dawson Knox a lot. And one of the three of them will be there at my next pick. So I think it makes more sense, even though I don't love Dak Prescott, to take him at my quarterback spot here and then let either Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, or Dawson Knox fall to me at my next pick and then just take whichever one of them is left. And then maybe I can get Dallas Goedert at a 2-round value if Team 3 passes on him and takes somebody else, which happens. So I will. He'll probably take him at the 9-3, but if he passes on Dallas Goedert again, and he does not. So after my pick, Tyler Lockett, Matt Stafford, Devin Singletary, Hunter Renfrow, Brandon Ayuk is a really, really good pick in the 9th round for Team 1. Alan Lazard, then Dallas Goedert goes 2 picks before me, followed by Chase Claypool. So here I am sitting with my team having 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers, and a quarterback. So it's looking like tight end is probably the best position for me to go for here. My options are between Zach Ertz and Dawson Knox. And I have Zach Ertz ranked just a little bit above him. So I will go ahead and draft Zach Ertz at this spot.
Oh. So right after Zach Ertz went Pat Freiermuth, who was going to be my pick. I think this year he's going to take that next step as a tight end because they're looking to get him more involved in the offense in terms of passing. But the issue that he had last year was separating from man coverage, which he's been working very much on this camp. But I think from this standpoint, I have to take best available at tight end, and that'll be Dawson Knox. I think he is a game changer for Buffalo when it comes to the passing game because they don't have enough guys to cover Gabriel Davis, Stephon Diggs, and Dawson Knox in the passing game. So I think that's the best value pick I could take at this moment.
Yeah,
I agree.
So I'm going with this wide receiver who's on a new team that's projected to be the wide receiver 1, and he's shown that he's able to be the wide receiver 1 on a team and at least a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. The games last year, he had 24 points, 17.5 points, 18.5 points, 15, 16.42 points, 24.4 points. They paid him high and to be used as a wide receiver 1. I think he will. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to make a huge jump this year and is going to rely on this guy. I'm going Christian Kirk.
Okay.
He has to have a prove-it year, Christian Kirk.
Yeah, no, I think he will because if you watched the game last night, I get it, it's one preseason game. Trevor Lawrence seems more comfortable in the offense. He has Doug Peterson as a quarterback. As a coach who, as we know, what he did with Carson Wentz, made him almost the MVP. And I feel like Trevor Lawrence is a much better prospect than Carson Wentz at that point. So Christian Kirk has shown he could be the guy, and I think he will be the guy.
I don't hate it.
There's 2 people I'm looking at right now. I could go Melvin Gordon here as I only have 3 running backs, but I think Javonte Williams could take over at any point in the year, especially with a lower pick and a deeper pick. I would rather go with a guy with maybe not as much volume or efficiency, but definitely has upside and promise. But I think he'll fall to me to my next pick. So while I don't have another tight end and I'm taking 2 stocks from a very bad offense, they are going to be 2 of the only 3 that will do anything on the Bears offense this year, I have to take Cole Kmet.
Dang, I was going to pick him.
So probably what I'm going to do here is I'm now going to take my RB2, and with my last pick, I'm probably going to take another tight end that I can stream with Cole Kmet. So here's my fourth running back. I'm going to take a guy who is still taking reps with first team. He's coming back from an injury, but I think he still could very well be a first and second down runner and could possibly get some goal line work with Etienne on the other side of him taking all the targets. I'm going to go ahead and take James Robinson.
Wow.
That's not awful.
So I'm
He's
going
gonna
tight
get a lot
end.
of goal line work.
What's that?
So James Robinson will get a lot of goal line work.
Yeah.
I'm going tight end here. I could either go Albert O for Denver or Hunter Henry. And my thought process for this guy is he had 10 touchdowns last year. He was the number 8 tight end. And I think now that the Patriots are actually going to pass more and has more confidence in Mac Jones, I think Hunter Henry could be a top 10 tight end. And Albert O, I just don't know enough of. I haven't seen him in the new offense. They have a lot of good pass catchers in Denver. So I'm going to go Hunter Henry.
This isn't a dynasty league, correct? This is a one and done.
Right.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Hunter Henry is who I was hoping would fall to me.
At the next round for your backup? I
Yeah.
was like, then why did you draft Cole Kmet when Hunter Henry was there? That
Well,
makes
because
sense.
Cole Kmet easily
Yeah.
has more upside.
I'm glad you took Cole Kmet because I didn't want Nick to have him.
I was going to pick him.
He has him as his tight end 8, and I don't like him getting the satisfaction of waiting to get the 14th or 12th tight end off the board that's going to finish as a top 10 tight end. I don't like that.
That's fair. That's fair. Here, I'm kind of looking. I have a couple ways I could go. I'm thinking probably snag another wideout. Tight ends, I think you can kind of pick and choose as you go, especially at this time where there isn't really too many that are, sticking out there. But this person that year after year kind of gets shuffled but doesn't get enough credit that he deserves, and that is Tyler Boyd.
That's a good pick. I'm going to smash on Ramondre Stevenson here without even a second thought as my fourth running back off the board. I really thought Brandon was going to take him at the 10-3. Him and Damian Harris are like, quote-unquote, splitting 50-50. But Ramondre Stevenson is getting the more valuable touches for a PPR fantasy league, I think, with the receiving work. Damian Harris is a guy that I absolutely hate in fantasy because last year he finished as a borderline RB1, but it was because he had so many touchdowns. He's not going to get that lucky on the ground in the red zone and toward the end zone again this year. So I think Ramondre Stevenson is probably the Patriots running back that's going to score the most fantasy points. I don't love having any Patriots running backs on my team, but
That's kind of my argument for it, is even with him seeming like he's going to take most of the bulk of the carries, it is etched in my brain that I will not commit to another Patriots or 49ers running back.
that's
again.
perfectly
I
fine.
actually-
I will gladly let him sit
I've
on my
been
bench and
so
only
I
start
feel
unlucky
like
with
the
those
running-
two backfields.
The running back room is a lot less congested now because James White just retired. And then Damian Harris there's reports that he might be traded because they might not pick him up next year, especially with Stevenson, and they drafted Pierre Strong, who's also a good running back. And so I think Bill Belichick is going away from that running back by committee, and he's looking for more of that it guy, the guy that can be the running back 1, and then having a running back 2. So I think that's a great pick by you, especially this late in the round.
I don't think James White retiring is going to do that much because he wasn't really going to have much of a role.
He was
this
the
year.
third round passing.
But I do agree that some of the work is going to be given to Stevenson. Some of it's going to be given to Harris. And there's really, aside from those two, maybe one other guy that might compete with him
Pierre
for work,
Strong.
but it's not going to be enough to actually matter, I don't think. And then with my last round pick, nothing here screams value. I don't mind Rondell Moore, but I don't think that once DeAndre Hopkins comes back that he will be able to keep up the workload he's going to get to start the season. So I don't like drafting players that are going to be good for the start of the season and then bad when it matters. So I'm not going to draft him. I'm just going to go ahead and take Alexander Mattison as the handcuff last player on my bench in case Dalvin Cook misses games. Then all of a sudden I'm starting Alvin Kamara and a makeshift Dalvin Cook at running back for those choice weeks where Dalvin Cook misses time.
For me, I'm going to fill out the rest of my lineup. I don't really care for adding more than one tight end, especially because they're so fluent and they really it's outside of the top 5 tight ends, top maybe 8 tight ends. You really don't get much value at the position, especially given it. So I'm going to go and grab my second quarterback, and that's going to be Tua. Tua to go with Jalen Waddle. So I've been lucky to grab 2 quarterbacks that I've also have arguably their number 1 wideout option. So that pairs well when going with fantasy.
So that bugs me because I was actually going to draft him next.
I knew he was. I thought about taking him just so Nick couldn't have him, so I'm glad you drafted him there.
So
that's another guy that's drafted as like a borderline QB1 that Nick thinks is going to be really, really good. So
it bugs me. Anyway, so now my 2 guys I'm going to pick from is either Trevor Lawrence, who I think, Doug Peterson, if he can make Carson Wentz look like an MVP candidate, and now he's a total bum. Trevor Lawrence, who's like, he was the, the best prospect besides coming out of the draft since.
The most anticipated prospect
Yes.
since Andrew Luck.
Yes. So I think I'm going to go Trevor Lawrence, even though they don't have a flashy wide receiver one. I think they have a good enough wide receiving core and pass catching backs that I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be the guy. Mac Jones, they're going to more of a West Coast offense. Mac Jones doesn't like it. He's upset with the coaching staff. Most of that team is pissed at Bill Belichick. So I think it's just going to be a train wreck. So I'm going Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. This is an interesting
Ronald
picture.
Jones goes after Trevor Lawrence, the cut candidate from Kansas City Chiefs. Great job, Team 9, with your awful sleeper AI.
So here, Darrell Henderson serves as a very good backup to Cam Akers. I could easily grab a piece of the former Super Bowl champions. I don't think I like any of the wide receivers here. So the only 2 I'm looking at are depth at running back, which could potentially help cover for the fact that I have 2 Bears players on my team, and with Cole Kmet probably being the higher upside option here. In my starting lineup, I could take depth to where I wouldn't have to rely on David Montgomery as much. But I also see Albert O, who has seen a lot of progress in the blocking scheme, which is also going to get him on the field more. He's a huge target for Russell Wilson. In my opinion, the 2 wide receivers that he has are unproven to be like super elite or like will soak up more than 120, 130 targets.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think that Cortland Sutton could be that guy.
Yeah,
I'm glad somebody agrees with me on Cortland Sutton because I had Cortland Sutton ranked above Jerry Jeudy, and Jerry Jeudy's been a guy that comes up a lot on like our show where we're kind of talking about wide receiver rankings and stuff like that. And Cortland Sutton, since the beginning, I've had slightly above Jerry Jeudy, so I'm glad somebody agrees and sees that he's a slightly better fit.
I do. I think he is, especially because he showed problems before the injury, but also he had one guy that I've been disappointed, especially in Denver, that I'm hoping maybe Russell Wilson could take advantage of is, what's his name? From Penn State. He's a wideout. I don't remember.
KJ Hamler?
KJ Hamler.
Yeah.
I think he could be the slot guy that almost like Tyler Lockett was used.
Yeah, I could see
Seattle.
him taking away from Jerry Jeudy. He's what I'm worried about when it comes to committing to Jerry Jeudy. I can see clearly that Cortland Sutton is and will be the one. The problem is, like, he seems to be a good talent, but he also can't stay healthy for a full season. So I don't know.
You decided to not go with Alberto?
I decided to not go with Alberto, who could have been who could be a red zone threat for the Broncos and a big target for Russell Wilson. I was also looking at Tyler Algier,
I think
rookie.
that would have been a really good pick.
I think would have been your better pick.
I
That's
thought
who I
twice
would've
about
gone.
it because he's going to be the number 2 behind Cordell Patterson, but he's going to be one to look out for because he had 3 rushes for 25 yards in the preseason game, and he's looking really good. I guess I was just afraid to because I haven't seen or heard anything else about him, but I should have gone with my first instinct and taken him, but I took Darrell Henderson
He's
instead.
like he's like what I was talking about with Rondale Moore, where I'm not drafting him because he is going to be worse in the back half of the season. Tyler Algier, while he's playing in probably the league's worst offense, is kind of the opposite of that. Like, Cordero Patterson isn't going to be the only person that their scheming looks for when he's old on a rebuilding team. Like, it just doesn't make sense for them to go out there and feed him 20 touches a game. So while he is probably their best running back right now because of how much experience he has, I think throughout the season, Tyler Algier is going to kind of take over that role. And while he'll be probably pretty inefficient based on the fact that the Falcons' offense just isn't going to be good, he will kind of take over that Cordero Patterson role as the RB1 as the season progresses, and maybe toward the end of the season, he kind of looks a little bit better than Cordero Patterson and then takes over in those valuable areas.
So I should have gone with my instinct then.
Yes, and the reasoning behind it is Algier led the NCAA in rushing after contact, like almost 2,000 yards at BYU. So, like, not even like a team that like runs a lot. I think his usage is going to depend on who's under center to start the season. If it's Mariota or if it's
Riddler.
I think if
Ritter.
Mariota.
What did I say, Riddler?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ritter. I think if it's Mariota, you're going to see more Patterson because they're going to use more of that option scheme, like the reads, the RPOs. I think if it's Ritter, it's going to be more Algier because he's more of a in between the tackles, get downhill. I agree it's the worst offense to be a part of, but I think Algier offers more of an upside when it comes to getting those tougher yards, those goal line packages where Cordell's going to be used in different ways at wide out in the return game at running back.
I also don't think that it's a bad pick to not take Algier there because he probably is going to fall to you in the next two picks.
Right, and there's
So
only
like you
4
could
bench
have
spots,
got
so-
both.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So like the draft obviously would have continued past 11 rounds. You probably could have got him in the 12th. All right, Brandon, you usually take over once the drafts actually end and let us know what we're going to do to close things off. So,
Yep. So just to close out, we'll all go through our we'll go through our teams real quick. So I ended up taking Kyler Murray with DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, Stephon Diggs, Michael Pittman, Cole Kmet, Marquise Brown as my starters, and then Juju, Chase Edmonds, James Robinson, Darrell Henderson at my bench spots.
I had Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, James Conner, Jamar Chase, DJ Moore, Hunter Henry. My flex spot would be Elijah Moore. And then I have A.J. Dillon, Rashad Penny, Christian Cook, and Trevor Lawrence, and A.J. Dillon. My team is the definition of boom or bust. I think if these players go off, I think it's league winning, obviously. But if they don't, I still have enough pieces where I can make some good trades, and I can kind of build my team in the midseason, compete for a playoff spot. And as we know, all you need is a playoff spot, and anything can happen in regular playoffs, especially fantasy playoffs. So, yeah.
Cool.
I ended up on my team having Dak Prescott as my quarterback, with Kamara and J.K. Dobbins as my running backs, which I don't love, but what can you do? There wasn't any value at my picks, so I kind of got stuck with them. Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans as my 2 wide receivers, which I really like. Deontay Johnson at my flex, which I also really like, with Zach Ertz as my tight end. And then Darnell Mooney and Kareem Hunt off my bench with Ramondre Stevenson and Alexander Madison following them. So, yeah, I think that this draft started really well, ended really well. I didn't really like how I did in the middle rounds, but, again, there wasn't really many values there, so there's not much I could have done.
My team, I had Trey Lance, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Deebo Samuel, and Jalen Waddle with the wideout. Dawson Knox at the tight end with Josh Jacobs at the flex. And on my bench, I have Miles Sanders, Drake London, Tyler Boyd, and Tua Tagovailoa. I think my team very running back heavy, but in a PPR league, I grabbed a lot of guys that are threats out of the backfield catching the ball. So I think ultimately, almost a boom or bust depending on how their usage is. I think the big sleeper will be Drake London, especially given who's going to be quarterback. One guy that I did think that didn't get drafted that I think has the ability to be a really high fantasy scorer is going to be Jameis Winston, given now all the offensive weapons he's having around him between Michael Thomas returning, Chris Olave, who they went and got.
Alvin.
Calvin. I think that he offers quite
I know
a bit.
Alvin Kamara, I meant.
Yeah, Kamara. And they had one wideout that was used quite a bit, but I don't remember his name. He kind of came on last year when
Yes, I know who you're talking about. I can't think of him.
Traquan Smith
Traquan Smith.
Yes.
or Marquez Callaway, one
Yeah.
of those two.
Yeah. So I think he could be someone that has, depending on how much he turns the ball over.
So
Definitely the regret that I have is probably when Jason mentioned that I could have waited for Michael Pittman to fall to my next pick. I was more thinking that in a real draft, there's a very high chance or potential that someone will take him in the 4 picks after that, seeing that he is going to have such a high target share in that offense.
So the way that I see it is most fantasy leagues, you're drafting with people that don't know what they're doing. If you're like in an online draft, then yeah, like probably everybody that's there is like pretty experienced because they're looking for a fantasy draft with people that they don't know, so they obviously care about it. But like in our keeper league, home league, probably Michael Pittman can fall to that next pick because whoever's at 11 and 12 doesn't know what they're doing. They're going to take the first wide receiver ranked on the board at that spot, which was Terry McLaurin, and then DJ Moore, and then Jalen Waddle. So while you know Michael Pittman is going to be a top 10 wide receiver this year, he was like 4th on the wide receiver rankings. The chances that somebody that doesn't know what they're doing says, Michael Pittman, he might be good this year, and drafts him are very, very, very slim when there's 3 wide receivers slotted above him in the sleeper rankings because, again, they don't know what they're doing. If they need a wide receiver, they're going to be like, all right, this guy is the top guy on the board. I'm just going to draft him.
So for me, I was talking about DJ Moore and like depending on the quarterback. Well, today we're recording it on Saturday, which is before the first Panthers preseason game. They were giving us this BS about, they don't know who the QB1's going to be until like the second or third preseason game. They just announced that Baker Mayfield would be the starter today, which is huge because there's a couple things. One, means he's winning the quarterback competition and between Sam Darnold. And 2, I think the newness factor, which means you just traded for a quarterback who was a former number 1 pick, drafted before Sam Darnold. You trade for him, they're going to give him more of a chance, and the fans want him to start. So I think Baker Mayfield's winning that quarterback competition, and I love DJ Moore even more now. So
I think with Baker Mayfield, he got shit on for no reason last year because he played the entire season hurt.
Right.
Like, I understand, like, it was a very bad season for the Browns, especially coming off of a playoff appearance, beating the Steelers in the wild
And he was
card
the
round.
one who made them go to that
Yeah.
playoff game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Browns just saw the big flashing lights of Deshaun Watson. But I say this once, I'll say it again. Cleveland is where quarterbacks' careers go to die.
True.
No matter who is running the helm there, that's where they go to die. Baker Mayfield rightfully was pissed. He had every right to be pissed because he got traded. It got traded for next to nothing. So now Matt Rule, who's trying to save his job, looks like a genius because he has the number 1 overall pick from a few years ago at his disposal. And I think it's going to ultimately be better for the team because I don't think you use Christian McCaffrey nearly as much as they do previously with no quarterback, where now he is less likely to be injured all the time. That's my thought on it.
No, and I agree. I mean, if you're a coach trying to stay in the NFL as a head coach, making millions, what are you going to do? Are you going to go with Sam Darnold, who your fans hate, which, most importantly, that's who you care about, and is technically a worse quarterback in draft position and on game tape than Baker Mayfield, where Baker Mayfield's literally starring in commercials for the Browns. The fans have loved him until he shit on their franchise. And has that dog mentality. He's going to go out there. He got traded, like you said, for nothing. He thinks he's that number 1 man. He has a little bit of a Tom Brady-esque chip on his shoulder. Not saying he has the same talent, but he's going to go out there and act like he does. And he has better wide receiver target. The focal point of the offense isn't just run, pass on 3rd down, which as a defensive coordinator, granted, I'm not a coach, but from just watching football, I know, they're probably going to pass it. And so much more of that guessing game is there. And I think DJ Moore, and I think you have Terrence Mitchell.
Yep. Terrence Marshall.
Terrence Marshall, who's also a young wide receiver. That's pretty good. And you have Robbie Anderson, who's no slouch, by the way. I think Baker Mayfield's going to make...
I actually saw a stat earlier this week. 53% of Robbie Anderson's targets last year were uncatchable.
Yeah.
I believe it.
100%. And so I think with that and their focal point on that pass-first offense, is going to make Baker Mayfield back to what he was, which is a first overall pick.
Going through some of these picks, there's one that I think will end up having a hiccup, but I don't hate it for the value that you got him at, was Chase Edmonds, because I think it's going to come up to how much Raheem Mostert ends up playing up to his ability.
I agree.
Because in San Francisco, he was listed as the starters with Edmond, so it looks like it's going to be a 1-2 battle between them. But when Mostert was healthy and running, he was a force to be reckoned with.
I think it's going to be something similar to what we saw in Arizona last year with Chase Edmonds and James Conner, where Chase Edmonds is going to be the between-the-20s guy who's getting the passes out of the backfield. But Raheem Mostert
that's where he has the leg up in a
rusher.
full PPR as the passing game.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, I like your pick, especially getting him in the 8th round, because he offers that PPR value that.
And if Raheem Mostert
doesn't.
looks bad, then all of a sudden he's the only capable running back on a
I think he looks
offense
way
that's
better
projected to
as
be really good.
I think he looks way better as like an RB4 than an RB3 with that much upside. But
I even like him as a flex play.
really,
Right,
I
yeah,
like
and
him
then
as a flex
if
play.
like I said, if Raheem Mostert goes down, all of a sudden on an offense that's projected to be really, really good and to score a lot of points, him being the only viable running back puts him at maybe an RB2 spot if Mostert were to get injured.
I'd say one guy to keep an eye on, is coming from Carolina, and that's Chuba Hubbard.
Yes.
That's
I
the guy
love
to
him.
keep an eye on, especially with Christian McCaffrey's latest.
When he
I actually saw that Dante Foreman, they signed him to be almost a complement to Christian McCaffrey, but to also, if Christian McCaffrey were to go down, to split with Chuba Hubbard. So they're not looking to, when Christian McCaffrey goes down, have whoever their backup is come in and be the only guy. They want Dante Foreman to complement those
Rightfully
two guys.
so.
Yeah.
Rightfully
And
so.
he looked great last year when Derrick Henry went down. He's not a pass catcher, but if he's going to go in there and take some of the aggressive hits from Christian McCaffrey in spots of the field where you're more likely to get those aggressive hits, then it just all it does is lengthens Christian McCaffrey's shelf life and makes things easier on Chuba Hubbard because he doesn't have to take a Christian McCaffrey workload.
Looking at some of these CPU drafts, Team 4 drafted like shit. But outside of Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, he splits time with Kareem. And in terms of a PPR league, Nick Chubb doesn't offer too much. Javonte Williams, we can't discount Melvin Gordon still being in Denver.
I agree with that, but Nick Chubb is actually, I think, a great pick at the 2-9, considering normally in sleeper drafts you see him go like early second round. So they actually got him at a value compared to what you normally see. Javonte Williams, even though he's going to have Melvin Gordon there, finished as an RB2 last year in a bad offense. This year they're going to be better. So he's starting virtually 3 top 24 running backs. The problem is that he waited till round 6 to get a wide receiver that's not going to play until week 7.
Traylon Burks, who hasn't
And then
played it
followed
down.
it by Traylon Burks, who's never played before and is definitely not a starting wide receiver in fantasy as your wide receiver 1. And then Tyler Lockett is not a starting starting wide receiver in fantasy. Chase Claypool, not so like he has really good running backs, and then his tight end is good, his quarterback is good, but he's going to be screwed at wide receiver for the whole
I think
season.
Joe Burrow has a slump. I think he slumps. The way I look at it is his
I
second
might need to
year.
leave for this one.
And the reasoning behind it is that I treated his second year more like his rookie year because he lost time with the ACL injury.
Yeah.
So now there's more film on him. He has a great receiving core, and they beefed up that offensive line. But I think he's going to have that sophomore slump where defenses are going to get more creative to come at him, and it's really going to be up to how well can they protect him. Because I'd like to see him be more active running the ball because that's what he did well, especially at LSU. And even his rookie year, staying alive. And he didn't do that last year, and they kind of got lucky because they beefed up that line. But I think that now that there's more film on this team, especially given the new head coach,
That's a Steelers fan bias.
It
That's
is a
all
Steelers
That's
fan
all that I
say,
think.
what I'm gonna say to that is even if they find a way to get to Burrow with a stronger offensive line, how much do you think that's going to change when he made it to the Super Bowl as the most sacked quarterback last year?
I think that he had enough weapons to help him. Now, with Cincinnati, they didn't upgrade too much on the defensive side of the ball, I don't believe.
No.
A lot of it was on the offensive side of the ball.
Yep.
So that's my question. While a lot of other teams, especially in the AFC North, got better, arguably the Ravens got worse because they traded away Marquise Brown. But but they're putting a lot of money into Rashad Bateman being that guy. I think that in general, it's the Bengals' division to lose, but I don't think they're going to be as good as they were the year they went to the Super Bowl.
So I think Joe Burrow as a fantasy quarterback will be better than last year. What he finished as like the QB8 last season.
Yep.
We've talked about this, so I'll give you kind of the Cliff Notes version. Better offensive line, young weapons that are better than they were last year. Last season, Joe Mixon did as well as he did because they were up by so much in games. So they could literally let Joe Burrow throw for 3 touchdowns in the first half and then just hand the ball off 40 times in the second half and let Joe Mixon get his. This year, I don't think that's the case. The AFC is much more talented. Like you said, the defense isn't going to be as good as they were last year, which is going to cause them to be in more games rather than up in more games or even behind, which causes him to throw more, which inflates his stats, which obviously gives him better fantasy numbers.
I was looking at this earlier, and I think the big reason behind it is outside of like a 3-week span where he scored almost 49% of his fantasy points, he really didn't do anything special. Like he was right around average. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can pull it up here, but it was.
Yeah, no, you're right. He had what was it?
It was a stretch of 3 games where he just played out of his mind.
Yeah, and it was in the fantasy playoffs, which is why he's being drafted as like a top 5 quarterback.
And that's why, like, other than that, he wasn't anything good. And it was, let me find it here. It was week 16, 17, week 14, or no, and then week 4 through week 8 where he played abysmal defenses other than Green Bay. Like it was Jacksonville, Green Bay, Detroit, Baltimore, New York Jets.
And surprisingly, he had less fantasy points against the Jets than he did Green Bay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and then he put up 8 points against Cleveland, 8 points against Las Vegas, and then right in the middle, 12 points against Denver. So that's what I mean is that like he struggles, and I think now with more film on him, they're going to be able to find more weaknesses. He has one of the greatest receiving cores in the NFL this year between T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Jamar Chase. I just think that there's a lot more film on him now, and it's going to be a lot different. Like other than those, few weeks, he was really right around average. Especially the 38.1 points and the 34.84 points, where he threw 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So that's why I think he's going to be more of a bust this year than, given that people are going to draft him earlier than they should. I think,
so you're just talking about him more as like an NFL, like real NFL quarterback than a fantasy quarterback.
I think where Team 4 got him in the 5th round, I'm better with that value. I think given like if we would have been in a regular where it's just us and friends, he would have went a lot higher, and it would. I think that
that's 100% true.
Especially if somebody like with whoever takes Jamar Chase in the 1st round, they might be looking to stack him with Burrow in like the 3rd.
Especially because he's a big name now that like, he went to the Super Bowl. He played out of his mind. And really, they were only a few plays away from winning that Super Bowl last year. I think I don't see him being this top 10 quarterback that people think.
Wow. That's a hot take.
I don't. I think he'll finish right in the middle of the road.
Okay. Well, that was fun. Thanks, Aaron, for coming.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that was our August mock draft. So next week, we're going to go over our top 24 running backs, and then that's pretty much going to bring us into fantasy draft season, then the real NFL season. So super excited.
What are you doing next weekend?
I will come whenever you invite me. That sounded weird. I'm sorry.
Wasn't weird till you said it was weird.
Well,
I think we've got our intro.
Oh, okay, Aaron. So we have to tell you this. I love that it was you. So anytime someone says something stupid or funny that can be taken wildly out of context, that's usually what ends up being the intro. So.
Man, my wife is going to love this.
All right. Come back next week. Buncha Bum signing off.